next up, I have the pleasure of introducing Whitney, and she works with Playworks, which is an organization, a nonprofit organization. It's all across the country, and it works to reincorporate recess in schools. Because when we think of energy, kids have it, whatever it is, or emotion. Kids have lots of emotion. Their beings constantly in motion, they never stop. And what Ola does in schools is make sure that all of this emotion, all this energy that kids have is positive, and it goes to beneficial purposes. And so I'll let her take the stage.
Opportunity to speak many times to different size audiences. Never before have I ever had to speak after someone so amazing, right? And I have two staff members from my office with me, and they're like, good luck. I don't know what you're going to do or what you're going to say. You might want to change it up a little bit. What's so interesting, so first of all, I'm so honored to be here. It was amazing to see the dancers earlier, to hear from Darrell, and of course to see that beautiful performance by Andrew. What's so interesting is I was kind of pondering in my seat, like, am I really about to change what I'm going to say, which I'm not. But as I was sitting there just enjoying his performance, as I'm sure everybody in this room was, everyone from Darrell's row on both sides up, your experience was so different than the experience of the people in my row and behind. So unless all of you have just much better sight, or you're about 2 feet higher than me, we couldn't see his feet. And so I noticed all of you over here were looking at his feet as he performed, and I was just staring from here up because I couldn't see, and a couple of people stood up to see. And what's interesting is we all enjoyed it, but our perspective, similar to what Jenna said about the apple, about having it, seeing it in the morning before you go out and do what you do, and then coming back after work and it being the same apple but feeling different, was very similar. I mean, in the sense that the perspective that you had with that performance changed based on kind of where you were. So similarly, in some way, I'm going to try to connect tap dancing. I'm actually not going to try to make that connection. But I would like to talk to you about play. And we are going to play today. And never before have I been I've been in a confined space like this, but not with so many people. So we're going to play a game where everyone in this room is going to engage and play with me before I'm done. But we're not going to do that yet. We'll do that later. But I just want to prepare you. I want to tell you now, and I'm going to set that expectation so you don't look at me like I'm half crazy when we actually do engage and play. Before we do that, I'd like to do an exercise where everybody closes their eyes. And you can do that now. Everybody in the room can close your eyes. I'd like you to think back to when you were in elementary school. So you can choose any grade, kindergarten, up through about 5th or 6th grade. Think back, choose one of those years. And I want you to think specifically about your time at recess. Was there a certain game that you loved? Was there a certain place where you could be found on the recess yard? Were there a certain group of people who you enjoyed interacting with? Perhaps there were a certain group of people you did not. Recess may have been your favorite time of the day. And for others, it may have been the time of the day you dreaded most. Okay, you can open back up your eyes. So we all come from different walks of life, and there are people who were born in the 90s here, and there are people who were born in the 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s. So we're all, a variety of ages, and we come from different walks of life. But I'm sure one thing that many of us had in common was that we experienced recess. And what that experience looked like is probably just as different as how many people are in this room. Today, there are millions of children throughout this country who experience recess and completely hate it. Where recess is the time of day where they actually dread. Where it's not a time of day filled with fun and play and games right after lunch, but instead it's a time of day where half of the children are still inside the lunchroom, afraid to actually go outside. So I want you to think about how something like recess, something like play, something like a ball, can actually transform not only the lives of children, but also the lives of adults. It can transform a school. And there's an incredible organization called Playworks, and I'm not standing up here to just talk about the organization I work for, I promise. But Playworks, as well as a few other organizations, have found an answer to help transform schools. And we do that through recess and play. So in a school on the Upper West Side, actually in Harlem, called the Storefront School. It's a school that's been around for about, the children's storefront school, it's been around for about 40-something years. It's an independent school, but the kids do not pay to go there. And about 80% of the children receive free and reduced lunch. And the school is in an area in Harlem, but it draws children from Harlem as well as the Bronx and areas in Upper Manhattan, like in Washington Heights and in that area of New York. And for some of the students who come to school, they walk. Others of them are dropped off by their parents. Some of them take the train. And the experience of those children coming to school every day, getting to school isn't the most beautiful thing, right? So I want you to imagine being a child, and I'm thinking of one boy in particular who goes to that school, and every day he's going to school, he passes a drug dealer, he passes an abandoned home, he's seen people be arrested on a daily basis going to school, and then he comes to school. And for the first 3 years of his life at school, it was a completely horrible experience. He was made fun of, he was talked about, he absolutely hated recess. And then something happened, something different changed. There was someone brought to his school, and that person's job was to completely transform his school through recess. And he looked at that person as a superhero. That person was called a Playworks coach. And what their job is every day they go to that school, they go to Children's Storefront School, and this coach, her name is Coach Maria, and she goes to the school, and every day her job is to ensure that between the hours of 11 and 1, she puts a smile on every child's face. She makes sure that the games that they probably had never heard of, like Foursquare and Switch and Wall Ball, that they actually get to play every day. And I know, some of you are probably thinking, okay, so what's the big deal? They get to play games, okay, that's cool, whatever. I got to do that all the time. I played soccer, I was involved in extracurricular activities. The reality is that for so many kids, that's not the case. So they don't go home, there's no backyard. They're not involved in extracurricular activities. And so the time that they should be playing should be at school, but instead that's not happening. And so the way that that's affecting their lives is that imagine if recess is a chaotic time filled with fighting and name calling and bullying, and then right after recess you're pushed into a classroom and you're supposed to learn math. You're supposed to learn about history. Who would want to learn after that type of experience? And that's what breaks down education. That's part of the problem with so many of our schools today. And so anyway, so Coach Maria every single day comes outside, and their school is in a brownstone. It's actually in 3 different brownstones on East 129th Street in Harlem. And there's no recess yard. These are brownstones. There's no backyard. Instead, the recess yard is a street that starts at Park Avenue and goes down to the next block. And during the day, from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, the recess yard, the street is completely closed off, and it's filled with kids playing. And so the impact that this has had on the school is that prior to when Playworks came, every day from 11 to 1, this amazing and dynamic principal, Wendy Reynoso, would have a line of kids at her door, at her principal's office every day, like 20-something kids complaining about what someone had done to them, talking about how they hated school, why is there so much fighting, and that would affect the way the rest of the day would go. And now, if you go to that school from 11 to 1, that doesn't happen at all. So there's no line, there are kids playing, and they're getting along with one another. And they use what we call conflict resolution, or something as simple as rock, paper, scissors, to resolve their issues. So put your thumbs up if you know what rock, paper, scissors is. Okay, that was most of you put your thumbs up. We're gonna use that in our game later, and if you don't know, I'll teach you. But they use that to resolve simple conflicts. And again, you might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? So they don't have a recess yard, they close down the street. Oh, that all sounds great, but what's the big deal? The big deal is that simple conflict resolution tool of rock, paper, scissors actually permeates through the remainder of the school day and also into their lives. So something as simple as, let's say you and I, Tia, fighting over a ball now becomes us not fighting over a ball, doing rock, paper, scissors, me giving her a high five because she was more successful, and then the game just continuing. Whereas before that would have broken into a fight, and then Tia's best friend, Nisha, would have gotten in, and my best friend, Yolanda, would have gotten in, and then before you know it, it would have been a real brawl, right? And so, I mean, we're laughing, but that's serious, and that's what happens. And so now, how that permeates into the classroom is, you know, if I'm upset because I hear somebody whispering behind me, and then later that person and I go get in line and I'm pushing because I want to be the first one in line, it's a simple rock, paper, scissors, and then we determine who's the first person in line. And that's how we're seeing schools being transformed through play. And so what's so amazing about what play has the ability to do is that it's more than just giving children an outlet to be physically active, but it's also really helping to improve their overall social and emotional skills. I'm going to tell you one other story before we play a game. In a school in Brooklyn called the Bedford Village School, it's the longest running school in, I think in New York City, definitely in Brooklyn, but possibly in all of New York. It's PS3, Bedford Village School, or PS3, and there are about 600 kids at that school. For the last several years, that school has had so many fights every day, so many suspensions. The principal is a woman who went to that school as an elementary child and talks about how the school has just always been that way. There's always been a lot of fighting, always been a lot of chaos, always been a lot of violence between kids. And about a year ago, something changed, which was Playworks. But the challenge was that there were 3 Playworks coaches in that school all in 1 year. And what I mean by that is that we started with one coach. That coach was unsuccessful in running the program and they left. And then we got another coach. And that coach also wasn't that great and they left, and then we got another coach. And for the students of that school, they were used to seeing people kind of come in and out of their lives. And so they didn't believe that this coach who was finally there was gonna stay. His name was Coach Todd, and his name is Coach Todd. He's about 6'9". He played basketball, he really is 6'9". And he played basketball overseas. He's from Brooklyn and decided that he wanted to do something where he was impacting kids in schools. And I think before that he had worked for the YMCA. And so he heard about Playworks and he interviewed with us and we hired him to go into that school. And his boss at the time, Coach Calvette, sitting over there with the red hat, said to him, look, I'm gonna tell you something. I know you've worked with a lot of kids, but I need to explain to you, this is not, and I know you're from Brooklyn, this is a really difficult situation. These kids are used to people coming in their lives and leaving. And so I'm first gonna tell you that if you wanna be here, you have to make a commitment to stay. And secondly, I need to explain to you that you have to have tough skin to go into this school. So he's like, look, I'm from Brooklyn, I can do this, I'm ready, I'm gonna go to this school, you know, I'm ready to work with these kids. So he goes into the school, and on the first day, he says, hey man, you know, what's up? And the boy was like, F you. And this is a 3rd grader. And so later that day, Calvette came to the school and he said, man, you know, how's your day going? Man, somebody just cursed me out. He said, yeah, I know, people in Brooklyn. He said, no, it's one of my students. An 8-year-old, he cursed me out. He said, I mean, it's just welcome to Brooklyn. And that same student, later in the year, ended up being his favorite student. But it took him time, right? And so he stayed, so this was March of last year, and he stayed through that year. And then in the beginning of this year, he said, I want to start a junior coach program, which is a leadership program that we run for a cadre of students, about 12 4th and 5th graders. And the whole idea of this leadership program is that it's not your characteristical or your typical leadership students in a school. It's not the kids that are getting straight A's. It's not the kids who, you know, never get in trouble. But instead, it's quite the opposite. So it's what I like to call students who are highly influential, but oftentimes whose influence just needs to be redirected a little bit. And so those were the students that Coach Todd was looking for. And given that he had been at the school since March, he said, you know, I feel like I have an idea of who some of these kids should be. And one of the kids was this little girl. She was the shortest little girl in 5th grade, or she is the shortest little girl in 5th grade. Her name is Taylor. And she was fast talking. She didn't curse him out, but, you know, fast talking, thought she knew everything, was always in the office, was always getting in trouble by her teacher, and on the recess yard was always being made fun of. And he said, this is exactly who needs to be in my junior coach program. So the idea of that program is that every month he works on these character building skills with the students. And he takes them through role plays and different games and teaches them games. And then those students actually go out on recess and play those games with kids. And so I don't know how many of you were ever safety patrol people. Did that exist? I think I'm aging myself again. Okay, so back in the day, we used to have safety patrol people, and they were kids. And I was one of those, and we had these orange badges, and you would help me. Thank you, Paul. Paul, you don't look my age, that makes me feel a little better. And so safety patrol people, I think people kind of get a gist of, you don't know what they are, like they would stand at the stop sign, and they would help the younger kids walk across the street. So essentially, the junior coaches, in some kind of way, were like safety patrol people, but they wore purple shirts instead of badges, and they're outside at recess. And for example, one coach, junior coach's job could be to ensure that they give high fives to every child they see outside at recess. Or when a child, is unsuccessful in a game, they say, "Good job, nice try." So their job is just really to pump up kids and make them feel like $1 million. And at the same time, really build some skills while doing so. And so he said Taylor is perfect for this program. And Taylor began in the program, and at first it wasn't very easy for her, and she was still having some difficulty in school with listening and cooperating and still being sent to the office at times. And by January, she made so much improvement. And so I visited the school along with Calvet and a couple other staff from our team and some of our funders, and I visited their junior coach program, Coach Todd's junior coach program. So this was after school, and I got to meet some of the kids. And he had told me about Taylor before, but I'd never gotten to meet her. And so he started asking the kids questions like, what has the junior coach program meant to you? And how has it helped you? And this little peanut of a girl who probably came up to my waist, stood up, and she said, I just want to say that Playworks has really, really helped me a lot, especially the junior coach program. Because last year, I was a troublemaker. I would really terrorize my brother, and I would get into, that's the word she used, and I would get in trouble in the classroom, but on the recess yard, people would pick with me. And I wasn't like what you would think is a good kid. And then I had Playworks, and Coach Todd came into my life. And that's when I learned that I was somebody. And of course, I started crying. I was like, did he tell her to say this? Not only are these people probably going to fund us, but more importantly, this is amazing. I mean, and this is what she said, and her mom was in the background like, and she said, yeah, and now I still kind of pick on my brother, but now I'm teaching him games. And now when I'm outside on the recess yard, people think I'm cool because I know the games, and I give the high fives. And that's what Playworks does. And that's what we're doing every single day in over 380 schools across the country with over 170,000 kids every single day. And that's the power of play. So I'm going to take you through an exercise because there's no way I can talk to you about Playworks and we don't play a game, right? So we're going to play a game. And the name of this game is called Rochambeau Rockstar. Typically, when coaches, like Coach Zaire, who's back there, he's at one of our schools, hand up a little higher. He's at one of our schools in Newark, Peshine, and he does this on a daily basis, so it should probably be him standing up doing this. So give me thumbs up if I'm doing okay, and thumbs down if you think I need to change what I'm saying. Thank you. All right, so the way that Rochambeau Rockstar goes is that you're gonna simply play, and can I practice with you? You're gonna simply do a game of rock, paper, scissors. So you're gonna throw out on scissors, but we're gonna say Rochambeau. Same thing as rock, paper, scissors. Rochambeau, and you're gonna throw out on both. Rochambeau. Okay, we'll do it again. Rochambeau. All right. So I was more successful. He's gonna give me a high five, and then he's gonna chant my name. Go Ola, go Ola. And then I'm gonna come over here and play with Tia. Rochambeau, Rochambeau, Rochambeau. Okay, and Tia's more successful, so I'm gonna say, and Robert's gonna say, go Tia, go Tia, go Tia, and then Tia's gonna play with the next person. So we're actually gonna do this. We're gonna have the largest rock, paper, scissors tournament, I think, in Seton Hall's history. Maybe I'm wrong, and you all have these tournaments, and I don't know about them. But what's so cool about this one is that there's a prize that you can win, a very coveted prize. So the way that we're gonna do this, the way that I was trying to do the math while I was sitting down, it looks like in most rows there are 4 people sitting. And so you're just going to play you're going to play with the person next to you, and even all of you should play too. Play with the person next to you, whoever's most successful, play with that other person in the row until there's one person left in your row, play with the row either in back of you or in front of you. And then there's going to only be one person left on this side, one person left on this side. Those two will play, and then whoever is most successful wins the coveted prize. Thumbs up if you understand, you're ready to go. All right, okay, let's get started. like, please get Andrew back up here. Right? And smiling, this is perfect. But what's more important is look at the power of play. Look at how much you enjoyed that. Imagine getting an opportunity to play 20 minutes every day. We do that in our office. Every day we play. Even if I'm in heels, they make me play. We play every day, and it really makes you feel amazing. And just play has this amazing power to transform how we all feel. And I encourage you to all go out and play. Thank you very much.